The Chicago Bears are adding depth to their roster. Let's talk about some of these recent moves.
Bend over to your right.
What the was that?
What's up, Bears fans?
People want to hear me talk.
What's going on, Bears fans, and welcome to another episode of the Nicholas Moreano Show. I'm your host, Nicholas Moreano. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share this channel with a fellow Bears fan. If you're an audio listener, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, so please go check it out on those platforms as well. And you know what? Let's just start this show because typically on Fridays, I'll record at 11 a.m. It's a little later than what I typically go on, but also I do a show with Herb Howard. Due to some scheduling conflicts on my end, we're just going to bring Herb Howard to the Nicholas Moreano Show. So he'll show up here in a little bit so we can discuss some of his time at the NFL owners meetings, all these recent moves that the Bears have made in the past, day. Just yesterday, you had the signing of Case Keenum. He had Miles Boykin, Shaun Wade, the DB. So the Bears are adding roster depth to this team, and we're going to be here to talk about all those additions and plenty more once Herb Howard gets onto the show. But appreciate everyone for hanging out with me on your Friday after. Well, we're getting there. It's 11 a.m. We're getting closer and closer to the afternoon. And hey, Wrigley Field, opening day. I know a lot of people are excited about that as well. Hopefully, the weather it seems pretty nice right now. So I think they'll take it for what it is for this Friday. Finally, it feels like, the Cubs have been playing baseball for it feels like 2 weeks now, and they haven't been to Wrigley yet. So it should be a fun time to, see some, hopefully some good baseball there against, the Padres. So that should be a fun time. But all right, everybody, let's kind of get this conversation started. Like I said, Herb Howard will join here in a bit, and we can catch up on, whatever I talk about. And I want to obviously hear his opinions on, everything from the NFL owners meetings, being with Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson, Kevin Warren. He was there, and I was definitely sharing a lot of his stuff on this channel and just on Twitter to get, his perspective of things. So we'll talk about all that once he gets here. But let's start with Case Keenum being here now on a 1-year, $3 million deal. Case Keenum, I look, just looking at the move, I guess surface level, right? It makes a lot of sense for me in my eyes when I'm looking at this Bears team and what you want to get out of a guy like Case Keenum. The guy is 37 years old, been in the league since 2013, was last with the Houston Texans, did have a season-ending injury in 2024 in the last preseason game. That's why if you look up, well, what did Case Keenum do in 2024? Well, obviously, they have C.J. Stroud over there as well. So you weren't going to see much of him given that C.J. was able to stay healthy. But a guy that I think just provides a lot of perspective, experience in his time in the league and just going through different playbooks in the first year of implementing an offense. Like Case Keenum has that experience being with Houston, St. Louis at the time, Rams. Then obviously changed to the Los Angeles Rams, Minnesota, Denver, Washington, Cleveland, Buffalo, Houston. There's a variety of different stops there for Case Keenum. And what I think Caleb Williams will gain, Tyson Bagent as well, is that you can kind of just lean on a guy that's done it for over a decade. You got to be doing something right to be in the NFL for a decade. And then when he does get his opportunity in 2017 with the Minnesota Vikings, capitalizes on that time, right? Going 11-3 as a starter, 3,547 yards, NFC Championship game, the Minneapolis Miracle. I think everyone remembers that. But I just feel that when the Bears were looking at how to give Caleb Williams just different assets. You could do that in the form of the interior offensive line, which the Bears clearly have done, upgrading that position at center, left guard, right guard, with playmakers, in the wide receiver position, tight end. But you can also do it just in the quarterback room around him. And when you look and think back to Caleb Williams' rookie season, yes, you did have guys like Brett Rippon for, a minute there and what ends up getting cut in training camp or at the end of training camp. You have Ryan Griffin, who's working with the quarterbacks as a coach there as well. But none of those guys were really at the talent or the experience of a guy like Case, who will be in the room, again, 37 years old. But I think there's just a different perspective that he can provide that, like, not even a guy like JT Barrett, the quarterback coach. I'm pretty sure Case Keenum's actually older than JT Barrett, if I'm not mistaken. So just knowing that you can have that type of mind in the room, I do find that as valuable for Caleb Williams. And they're all going to see what the benefit too is. All three of these guys, you have Case Keenum, Caleb Williams, Tyson Bagent, Austin Reed was on the practice squad for the Bears last season. They're all going to be going through this offense, through this playbook for the first time. Ben Johnson's version in Chicago. So I do like that idea that these guys can now collaborate with each other. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice for some reason. You can collaborate with each other and kind of just go through things. Like for me, from the outside looking in, I don't think this is going to be an easy playbook to master by any means. Just given all the different things that Ben Johnson is going to want to try to run, that he's going to experiment running that may not work in Chicago like it did in Detroit, but you have to experiment with it. So I'm glad that you do have a veteran like Case who can maybe just share some of his takeaways from learning a playbook, different playbooks that you're going to have to, just different playbooks that you can take little tendencies from. And like, this is what I did here when I went from my stop from Cleveland to Buffalo. And then the next year from Buffalo to Houston for 2 years. Just things you can pick up on. And also, look, Case Keenum's seen a lot more NFL defenses than Caleb Williams, Tyson Bagent, Austin Reed have combined. So it's just going through those things throughout once it gets to the regular season, like the daily week of what it looks like and what you're going to be looking at defenses. You're going to have, your coaches to help you out with this. Declan Doyle, the offensive coordinator. I just mentioned JT Barrett. Eric Bieniemy, even though he's a running backs coach, has had experience running offenses as a play caller. You're going to have all of that. But it is nice just to have somebody who's also in the room with you as a player, granted older player, but he's going to be there. And I think one other conversation I do want to have about this topic specifically is, like, the addition of Case Keenum to me does not mean he's like quarterback 2. And I know, like, there are some Bears fans here and there like, oh, that's it, Tyson's done. No, I don't. He's 37 years old. And in the last 4 years, actually, so 5 years, we'll say 5, because he didn't play in 2024 due to the injury. And you know what? Really quickly, I do want to look up exactly what it was, Case Keenum season-ending injury. I had it, I don't know why I'm blanking on it, but season-ending IR by the Texans. It was a foot injury in the team's final preseason game, placed on, injured reserve there. So back to 2020 when he was with Cleveland. Okay, like, this is how much playing time he's actually had, real game reps. I mean, he started 0 games in 2020 and appeared in 2. He started 2 in 2021 and, played in 7 there. 0 in 2022, started 2 in the 2023 season. That would be CJ Stroud's rookie season. And like I just told you, season-ending IR due to the foot injury in 2024. So 4 games, starting since 2020. Like, there's no way. Like, I just don't. If you're thinking about it, is that who you want to have backing up Caleb Williams, just him by himself? No, absolutely not. And Tyson Bagent, when he did have to fill in for Justin Fields in the 2023 season, 2-2. And he did some good things in those games. I think he saw some limitations, but he's still only a rookie. So there's still, I think, a lot for Tyson Bagent to show, I think, but also just because you signed Case Keenum doesn't mean, the end of Tyson Bagent. Oh, as I'm looking down at my screen here, I see a very knowledgeable, good-looking dude who is just in Palm Beach, Florida. NFL owners meetings. Let's bring him on to the show. My guy, Herb Howard. Dude, what's going on, my man?
Nick, what's happening, good brother? How you feeling, man?
I'm good now that I'm talking with you, man. I'm glad that we were able to. I was telling everybody because of my, I have some things kind of going on later.
Yeah, you got a solid day planned, man. That's what's up.
Yeah, we weren't able to do our normal 1:00 show, but
We
just let you like, hey, can you jump on here right now?
we talk ball when we can talk ball, man.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, actually, Herb, like we were just let's wrap up this conversation with Case Keenum and being that veteran presence in the quarterback room. But then I also really want to just get your takeaways from the NFL owners meetings. But first, like the addition case. Okay, so the Bears they signed 1 year, $3 million deal, Case Keenum, but you bring in Miles Boykin, Shaun Wade as well. But what are your thoughts on just bringing a veteran, 37-year-old Case Keenum to the room?
Hey, man, I think it's a great move. First of all, I tweeted out yesterday, like, can we just acknowledge how great of a career Case Keenum has had? I mean, you put him right beside guys like Chase Daniel, Doug Peterson, who was Brett Favre's backup for umpteen years without ever really seeing the field, taking any hits. But they all made millions of dollars, and they were all very well respected quarterbacks. For when they did have to show up, they stepped in, they played well, very knowledgeable of the game, great teammates. I think guys that could turn into. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Case Keenum turned into a great coach someday. So I think it's a
Mhm.
really, really beneficial move to add him to the Bears quarterback room. I think Caleb will benefit from it. I think Tyson will benefit from it. I certainly heard you talking about Tyson being a great competitor and a really competent backup. I don't expect Case to beat him out, but
Mhm.
I expect Case to be just a great sounding board, a great guy, a great mentor for them in that room. And if for whatever reason he is so called upon, he's a capable quarterback to go in. We've seen him come in and play pretty good football at the NFL level. So I think it's a win-win move. I don't see any downside to it. Case isn't going to come in there with any type of ego or anything like that. He's going to come in there looking to help those guys wherever he can. And Tyson's going to be Tyson. Tyson's going to compete, and that's all he knows. So I don't think Case will beat him out. But I do think Case will add extreme value to the room. I think it will create a bit of a situation where the Bears may have to play a little bit of roster gymnastics because they'll probably have to carry
Mhm.
three um, quarterbacks. But that's not a huge issue, especially considering the Bears have a lot of their starters in place, and so they're just trying to fill in some depth pieces throughout the roster. Coach Hightower returns, so he understands what he wants to do with the special teams and how you can kind of play that numbers game there. So I see it as all upside bringing Case Keenum in.
Yeah, no, I think that's how I view it too. Like it is all upside, and the only like I don't even want to throw the word complication, but it is a three quarterbacks. Most teams just don't have three quarterbacks on the active roster, and with the emergency quarterback rule, could you, have Case Keenum play that spot as well, and you're looking down the road towards these games. But you speak about like Tyson Bagent's competitiveness. It just so happened that like this morning I was like scrolling through my Instagram stories. I do follow Tyson Bagent on there. He's out there wherever he's at working, throwing. And that's just, I mean, I think that would have been Tyson regardless of what the news
Yeah.
was today or yesterday. Like the dude is a competitor. He thinks very highly of himself. And you have to, if you are in the NFL, if you don't think you're good, then you can never be great. And I think Tyson is always of that mindset that he can even do more than what, his role is on this current Bears team.
And if you spend any time around his family, you see where he gets it from. I mean, they are all in on Tyson, all in on themselves. They believe in what they're doing. They legitimately believe if Tyson Bazin was a starter somewhere, he could be league MVP and win a Super Bowl. Like they legitimately believe that. I remember doing one of my tunnel talks after a game down in the tunnel in Soldier Field, and the Bears had won. There's one. But anyway, I was talking about somebody else. I was talking about somebody doing something good. This may have been a preseason game or one of the games where Tyson got in. I really don't remember. But I was talking about somebody else on the team doing something good in the middle of my tunnel talk, and his dad, some other family members walked by, and they like, "Yeah, he was fine. But did you see Tyson out there?" And I was like, "Yep." Yep, I saw Tyson out there doing his thing, man. So definitely, he's the confident guy. Comes from a confident family. He believes in himself, and I believe in him. Quite frankly, I think that
Hmm.
if ever he gets an opportunity to play here or wherever, I think he's going to play pretty well. I mean, you mentioned going back a couple of years ago when he had to come in and have those 4 games, and he went 2-2, and that's what you want from a backup. Just keep us afloat, give us a chance, to stay in this thing until our starter's able to come back. And I think he can certainly do that, and he thinks he can do a whole lot more.
I mean, he did that as an undrafted rookie, and before that, he had to beat out PJ Walker. Remember when PJ Walker was
Yeah.
brought in? Like
PJ, they
Tyson,
brought PJ Walker in for some decent money too.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and Tyson Bagent was like, okay, let's sling this thing here. And I mean, again, that's I do really like that about Tyson. He is competitive as hell, and all the CrossFit stuff that he does, and
yeah. He
me
had
trying
you
to
out there doing the
attempt
1 mile challenge thing. What
burpee.
was it? One
Yeah,
mile
I was
burpees.
1 mile per. I was literally. It's funny that you bring that because I was literally just talking to this with somebody yesterday, and it's like escaping me right now. And I still need to actually do it because I did not complete the mile because he's insane. But I do want to try to see if I could do it. But yes, he is that he's got that type of mentality, and I think that's good for the quarterback room that you have that. You obviously have your starter and your future star quarterback, hopefully, in Caleb Williams, and then you have Case Keenum now to kind of round things out for the quarterback room. And like last year, Tyson Bagent was the quote unquote veteran quarterback for Caleb Williams. Like,
Right.
how did that even as a player at least? I mean, they had Brett Rippon for a little bit in training camp, and then you had
Sure.
Ryan Griffin, the coach at the time, but
Sure.
not an actual player there. Now the Bears do have that. So again, like you, I see it as a kind of a win-win scenario. You do again, you mentioned it, the roster gymnastics, but I think it's a good problem to have because they should have had that type of player in the room last year for Caleb Williams as everything was kind of going awry and different coordinators, offensive linemen in and out. So just a bunch of different things. It would have been nice to have just a 37-year-old
Yeah.
decade veteran in the
Yeah.
room, but now the Bears have it.
They did that thing all wrong last year on so many levels. That was just another example of how they botched Caleb's rookie year.
No doubt. Herb, we're going to get to your time down at the owners' meetings because, again, there was I think there was just a lot of great content that you had that was just coming out, too, from
Yeah, for
there.
sure.
And I just want to hear about your experience as well because, I mean, that is, again, I think we've talked about, that's one of the events I have not covered. So I'm curious to hear your perspective of everything. But before we get there, just got to tell and thank some of our sponsors here, starting with Windy City Sports Cards. Guys, they specialize in buying and selling all things related to Chicago sports. Whether you're a diehard fan of the Bears, Bulls, Cubs, White Sox, or Blackhawks, they've got you covered with an extensive selection of sports memorabilia and collectibles. In addition to their Chicago-focused items, they also offer a vast collection of sports trading cards and memorabilia from your favorite teams and players. Visit their online store to find exactly what you're looking for to complete your collection or to discover a new favorite. You can check them out at 312 WindyCitySports.com. That's 312 WindyCitySports.com. And then really quickly, this is a new sponsor to the show here, Herb.
Let's go.
I got to thank the guys at Napleton Cadillac of Libertyville. It's a one-stop shop for all your needs. And what I mean by that is sales, service, parts, and body shop. It's all available at Napleton Cadillac of Libertyville, located on 1050 South Milwaukee Avenue in Libertyville, Illinois. The team prides themselves on their service, winning dealership of the year twice, everybody. So you got to check out their website at Napleton Cadillac Libertyville.com to see all their new and pre-owned vehicles, including the all new EV Cadillac Lyric. I saw that in shop. Sweet looking car. So if you have a chance, go check it out. But you can also subscribe to their YouTube channel to view more of their vehicles, which you can find in the description below. Napleton Cadillac of Libertyville, your one-stop shop for all your needs.
There you go.
All right, everybody.
When y'all see Nick in the new 2026 Escalade, shout out to Liberty.
Yeah. Shout out to Napleton Cadillac of Libertyville. That would be sweet. But look, Herb, what's also sweet is that you are down Palm Beach. I just want to know about your experience and just some of your top takeaways from hearing from Ben Johnson, Ryan Poles, Kevin Warren, because a lot came out of it, but I just want to hear your perspective on things.
I mean, I'll get to some of the cooler stuff a little bit later, but I think there were a lot of takeaways to come out of that in terms of things that actually will impact the Bears this season. You talk about hearing Ben Johnson say, and I tweeted about this and I actually followed up with the question for him the next day at the NFC coaches breakfast, which is always crazy because they do that coaches breakfast at like 7:30 in the morning, something like that. And it's the night after the NFL party, which is like it's just a
Oh
lot. It's just a lot. But anyway, um, I followed up the question because he had a sit down the previous day with Adam Hogue from CHGO, and he was telling Hogue that he's really intrigued by the slot wide receiver position and how the ball tends to find that player in his offense. So I was like, well, with that being the case, is it important for you to get your best player in that situation? And he right away he picked up what I was putting down, and he was like, "Well, I think DJ could do that. I think we could get DJ there, or I think we can get Rome there." Because obviously the Bears made two signings, and the assumption was, OZ is gonna compete to be there, or Devin Duvernay is gonna be there. Maybe Tyler Scott can throw his name in there, and they added to the room again yesterday. We talk about that a little later, but
Mhm.
like if that's gonna be what you think is your premier position, or where the ball just tends to go, I don't know that I'd rather have Zacchaeus there more than I would like to have DJ there. Or, you know what I mean? So um and he says, they'll kind of figure it out as they go. But he says he thinks that just watch from tape, DJ can certainly line up in there. He said the same thing about Rome. I think Rome tends to be more of an outside guy and he's probably better there. But DJ can
Mhm.
certainly line up inside. I look at what, Amon-Ra St. Brown was able to do. He went back even a little bit further and mentioned guys like Danny Amendola and LaRon Landry, not LaRon Landry, that's the
Uh,
safety.
no,
Uh,
Landry. Yeah.
Landry, the wide receiver, and
Yes.
that played in Cleveland, also went to LSU, kind of started that LSU run on wide receivers. But
Jarvis. Sorry.
he talked about Landry, Amendola as also being guys that have, had similar success in his offense or in offenses he's been associated with playing that slot position. And so, I wouldn't be surprised to see DJ operate a lot out of that slot position, just kind of create some mismatches and things like that. We know that OZ is able to really block. That's one of the reasons they brought him over
Mhm.
here. Well, he talked about, you've referenced a lot of times, no block, no rock. Like you got to be able to block if you're going to play receiver on this in this offense. And so that's something that the Bears didn't always have solidified last year. And so, I think it'll be interesting to see who gets the lion's share of the reps in the slot, considering that Coach Johnson thinks that's a place where he can really scheme up. And again, the ball tends to find that player. So I thought that was very, very interesting. Um, Moving on to some of the, off the field things, talking to President Kevin Warren about the field situation, the stadium situation, I should say.
Mhm.
It was interesting, man, because it's just kind of come full circle, man. And I think he's done a masterful job. I really really do. Just in terms of how he's gone about trying to gain some leverage in these negotiations over the taxes are going to be out in Arlington Heights. Me personally, I never believed for a second the stadium was going to go anywhere other than Arlington Heights. But he went on a full year-long campaign saying, "Hey, we will put this thing on the lakefront." They even went up in Northwest Indiana. They checked some other sites. They talk about the micro resite. He did reference the micro resite again, saying it's something they discussed, but it's not very likely because it's just kind of a
Mhm.
narrow space to try to put it in. Um, he says the lakefront is still a possibility, but the more you kind of listen to them talk, it seemed to come around like, okay, they're starting to make some headway in terms of actually putting this thing in Lawrence Heights, and that always made the most sense to me. The Bears are not a real estate company; they're a football team, and that's what they do. That's what they know. They didn't spend $200 million on a piece of land to flip it as property, right? They bought it to put a stadium there. They just, as the Bears tend to do, did it backwards, and they bought the land without agreeing to what the taxes would be, and then they had no leverage to do it. And then they hired Kevin Warren, and say, "Hey, finish this deal." And he's like, "Wait, what? How am I supposed to do that?" And so he has to
Mhm.
go on this whole roundabout way. But I think it's worked a little bit, at least enough to kind of move the needle for Arlington Heights. They also elected a new mayor earlier this week, and Kevin Warren seemed to be pleased about the prospect of working with that new mayor. He spoke well of the previous mayor too, but he seemed optimistic about the prospects of working with the new mayor as well. So I think that's probably going to work out. He said they still have the plan to get shovels in the ground in 2025. Now what that means, I don't know. If it's a December 31st photo op with some shovels in the dirt, we'll we'll see what that means. But he says that's still the plan. And so I thought That was an interesting takeaway as well. And then just talking to Ryan Poles, man, it's always really, really good to sit down and talk with him. Um, he does a little bit of an intimate session with the local media. He does
Mhm.
some breakout one-on-ones, and then he also does an off-the-record session, which is really, really cool. And obviously, nothing I can talk about here, but it does give you some great insight to, who he is, what he thinks, and it kind of allows you to inform your opinions a little bit differently about things that are on the record, right? And so I thought that was really, really cool of him to do. And he's not the first time he's done that, but
Mhm.
from him, you were able to, just get some information about, what they're thinking as far as O line, what they're thinking as far as the 10th pick, and these were things that were on the record, and he's on the record that um, he still likes Karan Amagaji as a
Yep.
prospect. He said he saw some positive things from him in the Washington game. Obviously, acknowledged that he was thrown into a tough situation in the Vikings game, but he still likes him as a prospect. He likes where Tevin Jenkins, Jesus Christ, um, who's our
Braxton.
left tackle? Braxton Jones. Thank
Braxton Jones. Yep.
you. He likes where Braxton Jones is in terms of his recovery. Obviously, everybody saw he's out of the boot right now, and on
Mhm.
on track to recover fully from his injury that he had last year. But I still think it puts him in a situation where you get to go into a season with a guy you don't know about his health. Coach Johnson acknowledged that Braxton's probably going to be limited when training camp
Mhm.
starts, and there's still just a lot of unknown about Karan, and so I don't know how comfortable they are going into that situation, but Ryan Poles seemed confident in both of those players in terms of having a plan going forward for how they can address those things. He did acknowledge it
There's
puts
a
him in a
lot.
bit of a pickle though, having drafted Karan
Yeah.
Amagaji and then having the injury like that puts us in a bit of a pickle.
It definitely does. And I think it was Kevin Fishbane who asked him a question about that 10th overall pick and having stars in place. And paraphrasing here, saying that, he doesn't mind having like a surplus of
Yeah,
players at that position. So you can look at that as a number of different ways. And again, what he maybe says on the record versus off the record could be, telling as well. But to me, when you do have obviously a guy in Braxton Jones who's still recovering from an injury, Karan Magaji going into year two, but like we've talked about this before, I just don't know how comfortable I feel, or maybe even the Bears feel about that possibility if he has to play at that left tackle spot. So with that 10th overall pick, it just for me, left tackle was still always an option before the owners' meetings, even after the NFL scouting combine. But now I just feel like if that right player is there who happens to play that position, the Bears might end up taking that type of guy. But also, like hearing Ben Johnson's comments on, the running backs, not just a running back, it's a weapon, right?
yeah,
And how to use that. So, I mean, look, literally everything's on. Let's bring Ryan Pace back into this discussion because that's what he always used to say. Everything's on the table at this point, and it just could be BPA at 10, which brings in Ashton Genty, Tyler Warren, left tackles, edge. I mean, literally everything's on the table. So it was, though, I thought, like having surplus at a position and not being afraid to have it. And then he also had the word, have them compete. And that some
yep,
of the players that are currently on the roster may be, somewhere else. Like, again, it just got my mind thinking. But there was, I think the show that I did, people in the comments were like, oh, could that mean cornerback as well? I'm like, I mean, yeah, it could. Like, you can have a surplus there. Like, if Ben Johnson was asked about Tyreek Stevenson, um, but it was like when he talked about him, he was like young player, still learning. And then I think it was Adam Johns that asked him about like, oh, did you guys discuss like the Hail Mary thing? He said not really, but he felt encouraged about the conversation. I don't know. Like, what does Ben Johnson think of these guys that Ryan Poles has obviously brought in? Like, I guess we'll see come the draft, right? If you draft a cornerback at 10, then you'll know how you feel about Tyreek Stevenson. If you draft a left tackle at 10, you'll know how he feels about Braxton. Like, it's going to be interesting how it all plays out.
yeah. Listen, we're still just getting to know who Coach Johnson is. Like we don't really know him like that, right? We're still trying to get to know him
Mm-hmm.
on that level to kind of give, some like insight into what he may or may not do. And I think he's still learning the roster. He hasn't really gotten a chance to get his hands on these guys. He will. They'll be there on Monday, right? He'll get a chance to see some of these guys and get them in the building. But I think until then, he doesn't really know. And can't possibly know what it is he wants to do with some of these positions. And I think certainly as we go through the draft, we'll start to, have a better idea of what his vision is, how that syncs with what Ryan Poles' vision is, and how they actually ultimately go about working through that thing together. I thought it was interesting to hear, Ryan Poles talking about what it's like when they're kind of giving their own individual evaluations of players. And he's like, well,
Mhm.
we may agree, we may disagree or whatever, but he says whatever it is. I think this was Adam Johns talking to him about this. It's like Coach Johnson seems like a guy that'll bang on the table about the guy that he wants. And he's like, well,
Mhm.
yeah, I like that energy. He's like, but once we get in front of in the big room in front of everybody, we want to control that because we don't want to impact everybody else's decision in the room because they know now what Coach Johnson thinks or what the general manager thinks. We want everybody's
Mhm.
honest evaluation. And so I think that's all really, really important. It shows a great level of awareness from Ryan Poles to even think about something like that. Like, okay, cool. You can pound the table in my office or yours, but when we get into, the war room or whatever, like it's kind of be cool because I want to hear these honest evaluations from the area scouts that have been evaluating these guys over the course of a year or two. So I think they got a good plan. And I think one of the things that kind of helps them with that plan is the fact that, like you said, everything is open to them. Like I don't think they can. I can't foresee them doing something at 10 where I'm like, yeah, that was terrible. Like I can't really force.
Mhm.
There's nothing I can think of them doing that will make me be like, wait, what? Like that doesn't make any sense. Um, you know, they can
Herb,
go tackle.
how what about a safety? I mean, you know what? Like I've seen that kind of thrown into some of the discussion. Well, what if they take the best safety available? And I get it. There is like when you think about like Jaquan Brisker, Ryan posted, comment on him about his. I love that he's been texting Ryan Poles like draft play. Like, that is such a Jaquan Brisker move,
That's
and I love
Jaquan,
that
man.
about him. Like he is
Yeah,
such a passionate. He's so passionate about this team. Like that's why there's so many people that want to see him do well and just kind of be the player that Ryan Poles thought he could be. But I, a safety at 10, that would leave me like, oh,
yeah,
okay, we're doing that at 10. Like that's probably the one move. And honestly, I'll throw in cornerback as well. Like the secondary. If you address the secondary at 10 with some of the needs that I still believe this team has, I will have questions, for Ryan
yeah.
Poles and just the process of how this would go about. But even then, you probably are taking the best safety in the draft at that point, the best cornerback available at that point. If that grades out higher on their board, then I see how they got there. But that would definitely be one I would be questioning.
So you smarter than me because I'm over here giving them more credit than maybe they deserve. I'm only thinking the things that they might even possibly do. I'm like, there's no way they go
True.
safety at 10. There's no way they go corner at 10. But certainly they could turn in their card and there could be a safety on it, right? I would think that they want to go safety. And I understand, with the age of KB and the health of Jaquan, I can
Mm-hmm.
understand you want to start getting something in that pipeline and protect yourself there. But if you're going to do that, you got to move down. You can't stay
True.
at 10 and take that safety, right? I don't think you
Mm-hmm.
can do that. So I would imagine like that's another thing that's on the table for them is moving down. Whether they move down and find a defensive lineman, interior or edge, that can make sense. I can see them trading down and doing something like that. If they want to trade down and go safety, I can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, if you do that though, to me, you're saying one of these guys is done. Like, I don't. That mean to me that
That's
you're
true.
like you're talking about a first round pick. We talking about starting. Like, you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
if you come into the draft with the 10th overall pick and you don't leave the first round with the starter,
What are
something
we
went
doing
wrong
here?
here, right? Like, what
Yeah.
what are we doing here? So if you do, even if you move down and you get to the mid to late teens or whatever, and you go safety, to me that safety's got to start.
Yeah.
And then what are you saying about Jaquan or Kate? Like, so, you know, I, I guess that would still kind of surprise me if they went safety in the first round, even if they did move back. But you're right, it's a possibility. So I guess I should add a couple of things to the list that would make me kind of raise my eyebrows a little bit and like, man, y'all had all of these options and this is what y'all came away with. You know what I mean? Like y'all could have moved up if you wanted to. Y'all could have moved back. Y'all could have stayed at 10, and then y'all come out of here with a safety when we don't necessarily need one to start for us this year. So maybe I should put a couple things on my list that would kind of raise some eyebrows for me. But I don't think I just like I
I
said,
don't
I'm
think
just
that's
giving
going
them
to be the move.
yeah, I'm
It's
giving
not
them
going
the
to be the
benefit of the
move.
doubt. I
Yeah.
don't think they're gonna go secondary with their first round pick. And so out of the things that I think they could do, left tackle, DN, inside or edge, running back, tight end,
Mhm.
are the things I
Yep.
think they could do. I'm not opposed to any of them.
Yeah, no, again, I can have that conversation and get to that pick. However, with that position groups that you just mentioned. Also, one last thing about just kind of the takeaways there too. You mentioned like or just you just mentioned moving up. That feels like if out of all the scenarios that could happen on draft day, that seems like the least likely.
Yeah, I
Just because
agree.
of how like Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson were kind of talking about this draft. And I think a lot of teams at this point are just the 50s. I think Ryan Poles said the 50s, 60s, 70s range feels like where you can get good value, guys that will be players that may not be like day one stars, but can make an impact in their first year. I think actually maybe it was Ben Johnson that said that part, but that seems the more likelihood. If the scenarios actually play out, it's either stick at 10 or move back. And
The
obviously you got to find that trade partner. So I think those would be the more likely, way more likely than going up to select whatever tackle they may
only
have
one player.
zeroed in.
There's only one player that I could see them moving up for, and that's if Mason Graham just slid for whatever reason. So
True.
if you're at 10 and you look up and it's at 7, 8, he's still on the board, you're like, hey, we want him.
Shoot.
Like if for whatever reason he slips, if you end up getting those quarterbacks going quick, and then Genty, and then somebody wants Warren, and then Mimble continues to rise up the board, and somebody also wants Will Campbell, and now you got Travis Hunter, and like now you're sitting this thing, and it's like, oh, we're at 7, 8, and Mason Graham is still there. He's the only player I can see them moving up for. I don't see them doing that for Will Campbell or anybody else. I don't think they have the luxury of doing that for Tyler Warren or Genty. Um, but if Mason Graham happens to slide into a decent range, I don't think they can move up. I don't see them like moving up to 3 or 4 to get him. But
Yeah.
if it's 7, 8, and the price isn't super crazy, I could see them maybe pulling the trigger on Mason Graham. He's the only player I see them moving up for.
I would agree with you with that one. Not even like an Ashton Genty if he kind of
No,
is in that
they don't
range.
have
I
that
feel
luxury.
like
No.
and you know what Ben Johnson was saying, like there's a lot of good depth at the running back spot, and even said like even in the undrafted potential players, like he's they're clearly they're doing their homework on the
Yeah.
running back spot. That would
Yeah.
be shocking to me if the Bears did not come out of this draft with a running back. That would be a complete shocker to me. Whether
Yeah.
it's in the first day 2 or day 3, they're going to come away with a running back. At this point, we don't. It could be
Yeah.
It could be a number of these guys because there
Yeah.
are a number of good running backs. But it would shock me if they did not come away with a running back. I think it would shock a lot of people, especially a lot of people in the chat that want a running back to be paired with DeAndre Swift. And really quickly, I did like it was Poles' comments, and he brought up Eric Bieniemy and
Mhm.
just I think was it you that asked the question, Herb,
To
about DeAndre
Coach
Swift?
Reed.
To
Oh no, to Ryan Post.
yeah,
Yeah. I
of
asked him
course it
about
was.
his evaluation of DeAndre Swift's season, considering the subpar play they got from the O line and the presumed
Yeah.
improvements. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned like Eric Bieniemy, like with him, he's gonna be detailed. Those landmarks. That's gonna be. I think that's gonna be such a nice addition to that
Yeah.
running backs room
Yeah.
for Swift, for whatever rookie comes in.
Yeah.
Like these guys they're gonna know what they need to be doing, or they're gonna get chewed out for it. Which
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be like I said, a good addition there.
No, I think so too. And I had a chance to ask Coach Andy Reid from the Chiefs the same thing about
That's
Eric
right. Yeah.
Bieniemy, and he said, "Listen, he's the best in the business at coaching running backs." He said he's great at a lot. He's great at a lot of things. He's a great OC, great play caller, whatever. But he said he's probably the best in the league at being a running back coach. He also said he's the best leader. He may be the best leader he's ever been around, and so I'm excited about what he's going to bring to that room and to the team. Coach Johnson also referenced that he's also giving input on other things. He's not just talking running back
Mhm.
landmarks and this and that. He's giving his input on other things, and I think that's healthy, man. To have a healthy, coaching staff where everybody's giving their input and you can land on the best way forward. Obviously, Coach Johnson gets the last word, but getting that input from these experienced coaches and actually listening and receiving that is going to help. But I think Coach Eric Bieniemy is going to be a really, really he's going to have a positive impact on that running back room and ultimately on that team, and certainly on DeAndre Swift. And you're right, Ryan Poles referenced that, and so did Coach Andy Reid. Man, I saw that thing kind of going around. You know how Nick?
Mm-hmm.
Let me just address this real quick. You know how we always when we use something that we heard from the
Yeah,
beat around the news or whatever, we always try our best to acknowledge where that came from.
absolutely.
John said this. You just referenced Fritz Bain. I referenced Hogue earlier. I don't know why that's not more common practice on our beat, and it's a little interesting to me, man. How that happens when people use certain pieces of information or certain pieces of content that they got, and without ever referencing where that came from or whose question that was or how that initiated. It's like it's just it's just weird behavior to me because to me I'm not a hater, so I don't know how to behave that way. So if I like I literally told Coach Johnson in my question, like I saw you talking to Adam Hogue yesterday and
Mhm.
this is where my question is coming from. That's just the type of I'm just like I said, I'm not a hater. It's just weird behavior when I see people neglect to do those things. I'm not talking about like the national stuff. Sometimes our stuff will go national and
Mhm.
ESPN or whoever reported. People that don't know me, cool, not tripping off that. But the people that we work with every day, when they use us, like you don't know our names to say, hey, this Nick said this, Herb said that, and this is what like you know what I mean? Like it's weird to me, but I digress.
No, I mean I get that. It's I don't know. Is it a pride thing? Is it a I don't know what it is. I don't know. But it's just I think it's just when you do things like when you say, "Oh, this is who said this," or "This is coming from so and so reporter." I think that just shows the quality of questions coming from the overall beat. Right? Like
Yeah.
that's what I think it builds us up of anything. But no, I mean I think it happens way too often to be. And
It,
it's
it
funny that you mentioned that because I was thinking about that too.
yeah, it really does. It's weird, man. And shout out to the fans, man, because like some of the people who rock with us, like they'll tag me. Like I'll see, I want a random post to be about something, question or whatever, and they be like, "Yeah, that was Herb's question." Tag him, and I'd be like, "Oh, appreciate that." You know what I mean? But it's just
Mhm.
like we just do better. That's all. Just do better. Do better.
Yeah, we're a team here. Come on, we're a
Yeah,
team.
everybody's
We're all
everybody's
we're
trying to
all
get the
there
best information.
grinding.
Yeah,
We're all grinding there. Let's work together, and that honestly that just helps us all out in the end there. But
hundred
Herb,
percent.
we have a couple last things that I want to get to before I do. So look, I got like these shipments of these protein 2O
Yeah, I saw
drinks
that
here,
on your
Herb.
Instagram or your Twitter.
Yeah, man. Like, okay, if you're looking for a protein drink that has 20 grams of protein but tastes delicious, you also get your 350 milligrams of electrolytes. So I mean, it's like a dual threat player here. You get your protein, you get your electrolytes. It tastes great. Actually, triple threat here.
For real.
Check out Protein 2O here. I have the strawberry watermelon. I already drink one today. I mean, can't say that I can't drink two of these. 40 grams of protein, 700 grams of electrolytes. No one's saying I
Why
can't do it,
not?
but check out Protein 2O if you're looking for maybe not one of those standard thick, maybe doesn't taste as great protein
Yeah,
shakes.
yeah.
Protein 2O is a good alternative. But also too, look, Herb's on here at the Nicholas Moreano Show, but you got to go if you haven't already. There's 70 people live, maybe there's more. Go subscribe and follow It's the Bigs, the YouTube channel. We're starting to build that up and we're consistently putting Bears content on there. And also follow Herb Howard at Herb Howard 411 on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. But after this show or even during the show, you can come back. Go give them a subscription on YouTube. It's going to help build up both these channels, especially as we get closer and closer to the draft. It's coming up, Herb, and I cannot. We've talked so much about just the number 10 overall pick, and they have obviously other picks in this draft, but you want to make sure you're subscribed there here at the Nicholas Moreano Show so you can continue to build both of these YouTube channels. All
You
right,
know
you
that
guys.
411 in my Twitter handle is
Yeah.
people assume that it like it's me saying like I got a ton of information. and I mean, I get a
Okay.
little access. I got some information, but it's my birthday. It's April 11th is my birthday. That's where that came from. It just complete coincidence about it being information. Like it's just my birthday. So 1 week from today, will be my birthday.
Let's go.
We're still gonna hop on, whether we do it early, late, whatever. We're still gonna hop on and go live and talk Bears. But yeah, that's where the 411 comes from. People think it's like information. It's not. It's just an Aries thing.
I'll be completely honest. That's what I thought it was. I'm like 411. Okay, yeah, no, it makes sense. But now it makes even more sense. And hey, next week, let's go. Any big birthday plans already established, or still kind of, or maybe it's just, I don't know. For me, I used to like, I don't care. Like it's my birthday. It's just I don't
Yeah.
know. But try to downplay it, and if somebody did something, it's like great. But if you didn't, all good. But anything planned so far, or not yet?
Nah, nothing planned so far, man. Maybe something chill, low key, but
Yeah,
I don't
there you
have
go.
anything like major planned. Nah, just chilling,
Nothing
just
wrong with
chilling.
that.
Yeah,
Just chilling. I like it. Herb, let's kind of cap off this show really quickly because the Bears did make some other moves in addition to Case Keenum signing Miles Boykin to a
yeah,
1 year deal. Also added Shaun Wade, the cornerback, to the room as well. So to me, like I'm not gonna get overly excited about like any of these two moves. And just recently too, earlier the Bears did sign DB Nick McLeod as well.
yep,
So you're kind of just seeing more depth being added to spots. And for me, I don't know, this theme of speed for wide receiver, it kind of just keeps being added there. We mentioned Olamide Zaccheaus, Devin Duvernay, Miles Boykin, I think falls under that category as
yeah,
well. He hasn't been a major contributor throughout his NFL career, but a special teamer, I think, is where you kind of envision, all these guys I just mentioned here. But anything kind of stand out from the moves, or does it just make sense to continue adding depth? And I'll be honest too, like with training camp going to be here, you also just you need people, right? You need
yeah.
camp bodies, as they say. So it kind of makes sense to kind of add some of these players here when they did.
Yeah, I look at it as a collective more than any, particular way about the individual moves. But you look at it as a collective, and what you start to see is competition. You start to see a
Yeah.
lot of guys that you can put in a lot of places and use their dynamic playmaking ability in a lot of different ways. And when you have a creative, play caller, play designer like Coach Johnson is, it kind of allows you to scheme guys up in different ways. And then hey, you just let it go. Like it's not on the coaches to really pick the roster. It's really not, right?
Sure.
The first 5 draft picks, they're gonna make the team. Your vets are gonna be on the team, your superstars are gonna be on the team. But then after that, like it's not up to the coaches to pick who's gonna be on this roster. You guys get to decide who's going to be on this roster. You guys get not equal opportunity. So I don't want to hear, Tyler Scott doesn't get a chance because they brought in Duvernay and OZ and now Miles Boykin is here. Y'all get a chance. Go out there and make the team. You referenced the
Yeah.
fact that Tyson Bacon came undrafted out of a small school and won the number 2 job over a guy named PJ Walker, who they gave serious backup money to. And it was like, yeah, we gave you that money, and half of it is probably already guaranteed, but so he outplayed you, and you got to go. And I think that's how it should be. Um, I forgot the thumbs up thing happens, but
Oh yeah. Well,
um,
let's see if I
he
can do
he
it.
outplayed you, and that's how it should be. So I think the more of these guys they bring in, it just creates competition, man. It creates competition, and you look at the same thing on the corner position. Um, Jay Jones, lost him in free agency. Shout out
Arizona.
to Jalen Jones too, man. He's one of my
Yeah.
favorite players on the team. Always took advantage of his opportunities when he had a chance to play, but also just a really cool dude. So shout out to Jay Jones, man. I hope he does very, very well. But it does create another potential spot, right? Because you're talking about Jalen
Mhm.
Jones, as much as I like him as a player, he's still your fourth corner. And if you're the fourth corner, that's expendable, but it creates competition, right? It creates a lot of competition. And so that's what I'm looking for in camp. That's what I'm looking to see from these guys to kind of come in, hit the ground running when they get to mandatory mini camp, go into training camp. Who's going to be the guys that says, listen, I'm not here just to be a camp body. I'm not here just to settle for the number 6 wide receiver spot or the 6th corner on this team. I'm here to make a name for myself. I'm here to make some plays. We saw it last year with Reddy Stewart. He came in,
Yeah.
listen, undrafted out of Howard. I don't give a damn about none of that, right? They had 3 proven slot corners in front of him already. They had Kyler Gordon, they had Josh Blackwell, and they had Greg Stroman Jr. By the end of the camp, they had to let Greg Stroman Jr. go. Greg Stroman Jr. is a player in this league. That's, you know what I mean? Like, and they had to let him
Hmm.
go because Reddy Stewart outperformed him in camp. It just is what it is. And so these guys should come in hungry, feeling like they got an opportunity to compete and take advantage of every rep.
You know what? I'd be looking if I'm one of these DBs, whether it's Shaun Wade, Nick McLeod, like Jalen Jones, you just referenced, he's gone. Who's going to be the first one that takes that spot? Going to be a
Come on.
major contributor on special teams. If asked to play, can go in and do some things on defense. But that's how I'm looking at it. If I'm one of these wide receivers, who's wide receiver 3? Is it just Olamide Zaccheaus because they signed him first?
Right. I'm
No,
not getting that up to him.
Exactly. Like if you're Devin Duvernay, you're Miles Boykin, like you're looking to go try to be wide receiver 3. Maybe it does just end up still being Olamide Zaccheaus, which would be fine, but make everybody work on this. Everybody needs to be working to be
Who's your other gunner?
showing their value.
Josh Blackwell is going to be one of your gunners.
Yeah.
Who's the other one?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like,
Yep.
come on. Like, you want a spot? Go get it. Jack Sanborn is gone. Jack Sanborn was the core special
Perfect
teams player.
example.
Played all 4 phases. Like, let's go. Like, there are spots available for you. And listen, even that third linebacker spot, whose is it?
Oh, yeah.
Like, if I'm coming into that team, I'm not looking at that thing like, oh, well, that must be Sewell's, that must be Agba. Like, it's whoever go take
Says
it.
who? Yeah,
Right.
says who? Like, yeah,
It's-
we haven't gone on the field yet to prove to this new coaching staff. That's the thing.
They don't
too.
have no allegiance to these guys.
Nobody. So it's like, go show me on the football field starting next week and then into, OTAs, mini camps, training camps that you deserve to be on this roster. That would be the beauty of all this to Herb. Like, if this football team, like, it's hard to make. Actually, it was, last year it was getting hard to make it at certain positions, but now there are a few open spots depth-wise, I would say. Go compete for that, man. I think that just makes for an overall more competitive, balanced, stronger football team in the end. And I think if Ben Johnson can, I don't know, just own up to like how he's been talking about this approach in the press conferences, then I think you're going to see a roster that has already competed in training camp, has done so, iron sharpens iron, so to speak, but that should translate to regular season football. But it does start with those little battles right there. And if you could take that from now into the regular season, man, I like what this team can potentially become in 2025.
Like you alluded to, it started last year and it'll continue this year. But before last year, for at least as long as you and I have been on the beat, people that got cut from the Bears were done in the league. That's it. You can't make the Bears roster. That's just it. So now you've gotten to a space where the Bears are cutting some pretty good football players. And now those guys get cut and catch on. And so that's when you know you got good depth. That's when you know you got good competition. When you start to cut good players that are still going to play on Sundays this year. And the Bears are in that position now. If they add another piece, say, to the interior of that defensive line, they're going to end up cutting maybe a couple good D tackles, right? What does that put Zach Pickens in this conversation? When you start to look around and you see Big Billings and Grady and you got Dex, and then maybe they bring in another one. If they go get like Kenny Grant, they move down and get Kenny Grant or something like where does that put these guys? It's getting tough in that room now. And so a lot of these guys are going to be competing for some spots. And I wouldn't walk into that room, giving anybody anything. If your name is not Caleb, Montez, Jalen, I ain't giving you shit. Like, let's go. Let's see about it. You know what I mean? Let's see about it. Kyler gonna start. We know some of those guys are gonna start, but a lot of those other things, man, come on.
Get ready, compete, and see what you can do on this 2025 Chicago Bears football team. I also like to really quick going back, like Kyler Gordon. I'm glad that seems to be an emphasis for Ryan Poles to get that done because he's a damn good football player. And maybe you look at maybe surface level box score stats, like, oh, he doesn't have the interception, doesn't have.
You better watch the game.
This, that.
You better watch the game.
Better watch the game. I love that. Yeah, just watch number 6 over there, wherever he's at on the football field. You'll see why he's worth every penny that
he can literally do everything, and I'm super excited to see him in Dennis Allen's defense because it's not as vanilla. You're gonna see him moved around. You're gonna see him come off the edge. You're gonna see him carry the seam all the way down the middle of the field. You're gonna see him squat in zone. You're gonna see him blitz. Like he can do anything you want him to do, and he does it enthusiastically, right? He's not just doing it because you said, "All right, that's what I
Yep.
got to do on this play." No, I'm happy to stick my nose in here in the run game. I'm happy to blitz off the edge. I'm happy to carry this receiver because I think I can play outside starting corner too, right? And so, like, he can do whatever you want. It's freaky athletic, great quicks, good speed. Man, Kyler's got everything you need in a slot corner, man. I would not be surprised to see him be a Pro Bowl player this year. He's got to stay healthy, and if he does
Mhm.
that, man, I'm excited to see how Dennis Allen deploys him in this exotic defense.
Yeah, no, we've been talking about it for a while. Like he is Pro Bowl caliber, and
No
it
doubt.
also takes the
Yep.
team to kind of recognize these players as well. So if we're expecting the Bears to take a jump this season, like I think most people are, some of these players that have been playing well will start to get recognized league wide and not just maybe from the local level here in Chicago Bears fans. But
Yeah.
I think that's definitely in the cards for Kyler Gordon as he looks at what will be his fourth season now in the league, which is crazy that
Yeah.
they're already there at that point. Him, Brisker, guys like that. So it should be fun. It should be exciting. And I know Herb. We've probably been saying that for the last 2 or 3 years, but this one I feel like does have a possibility to be different, which
Hey,
we'll take.
all you can do is make the right moves in the offseason, and
Mm-hmm.
the Bears have done that. How it all comes together. We all gonna see that together. That's all gonna come out in real time. We're all gonna ride that roller coaster through camp, preseason, and regular season. That's all gonna take place as it does. It's gonna unfold in front of us. But to look at the moves they have made and say, no, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't really think anybody has a legitimate stance to take on that.
No, that's a good point. Herb, I want to close out here really quickly before we, go out, hang out, and do our thing on our Fridays. Everyone enjoy the weekend, obviously. But what was your because you kind of had obviously you were there in Palm Beach for work, but
Yeah.
what was your best thing that you did that wasn't work related while you were down there?
Hey man, first of all, just the place itself was just super dope, man. The weather was great.
Serious.
You got the Atlantic Ocean right there. You walk out of the Breakers Hotel, you walk out of the back door, and the ocean's just all right there. I'm sitting out there one time, just kind of just taking it in. I'm just enjoying it. Um, take a couple pictures or whatever. And Ryan Poles was walking up, um, him and his wife, and when he just walked up, he just dapped me up like, man, Herb, it's beautiful, ain't it? And I was like, it really is, man. Like it really is. No football, nothing like that. He's just walking with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he just dapped me up like, man, Herb, it's beautiful. And I'm like, man, for real, it is. Like it was a really, really cool place. Really affluent area, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it's just Rolls Royces and Lamborghinis and Maseratis everywhere. Like that's just like the average car, it's just
Mm-hmm.
like whatever, man. It was super super cool, man. Had a really really good time. I sat down with um a particular coach. I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you when we jump off who the coach was, but we sat at the bar and had a blast. It wasn't the Bears coach, but we sat down at the bar and had a blast, man, for hours and hours, just
Oh man.
having some drinks, talking to the people that was there, man, just laughing, had a really, really, really good time. Made a really cool connection with them. And yeah, man, that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. So he was super cool. And then just kind of just going around, man, the party, the NFL party, that
Mm-hmm.
Monday night party is always insane. It's just the food, the open bar, everybody's there. Had a really cool conversation with Ryan Clark that night. Um,
Hey.
Shout out to Pat Finley. His son was just running around hustling other kids. They were giving the kids these like playing cards, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and trading cards. I should say, not playing cards, trading cards. And he's just hustling the kids out of their different cards, and he's running back up to us like, "Look, I got a Caleb for this, and I got a this guy for that." And I was like, "They gave you a what for a what?" And it's like, "Oh man, you hustling these kids, bro. Like, you
Yeah,
are
there we
hustling these
go.
kids." Yeah, he knew the ones that had value, and the kids that didn't, he was getting them. He was getting them. He was getting them. So shout out to him, man. He had a real good time. But it was really cool, man. It's just an opportunity for everybody to kind of let their hair down. Nobody's really talking too much shop. Just hanging out, man. And that's
Mm-hmm.
coaches, GMs, uh, PR staff, everybody, reporters. Everybody was there, man. Bumping the Drew Rosenhaus, the longtime NFL
Okay, yeah.
agent who's probably done, I don't know, 5 billion in NFL contracts. Like, um,
Seriously, yeah.
like for real, right? So that was cool, man. But it's just a little brief interactions, bumping to George Hallis George Hallis, Jesus Christ, bumping to George McCaskey. If I bumped into George Hallis, I'd have got up out of there. I'd have got up out of there. But bumping to George McCaskey, had a little fun and exchange with him in the hallway, man. So it's just little stuff like that, man, that just makes the weekend a good time. But it was a beautiful place. Had a really, really good time, man. So next year, for sure, you got to come, and I got to come to
Mhm.
Mobile with you for the Senior Bowl. That's something I haven't done yet. And we got to tackle the combine together. We got to tackle Senior Bowl together and league meeting.
That sounds like a plan to me. And I'm looking forward to just doing all those things. And again, I'm looking forward to actually just jumping off this to see who you talk to. So let's wrap up this podcast here, you guys. Everybody enjoy your weekend. Appreciate you coming out and hanging out on your Friday. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment on this show, and share it with a fellow Bears fan. Shout out to my great guest, Herb Howard. Follow him on Twitter at Herb Howard411 for his birthday there. And also follow It's the Bigs YouTube channel. Just It's the Bigs. Give them a subscription. So when we're doing our shows on our normal Fridays, you'll get a notification knowing when we go live. But that's going to do it for this episode. Everybody enjoy your weekend. But until then, adios, Bears fans.
Bend over to your right.
What the was that?
What's up, Bears fans?
People want to hear me talk.